me about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dream. Live the best right now. Inspirational perspective.
I recently read Florence Scovel Shinn's book, The Game of Life and How to Win. And I read it while I was in Uganda, and this book has had a significant impact on me and how I think about life since I've read it. And one of the major takeaways, there are a lot of major takeaways, lots of notes from that book, but one of the major takeaways was the importance of being honest and aware of where you are in your life, or where I am in my life, and whether I am winning. Whether I'm winning and whether I'm losing, because there's always another side. And then noticing how you think about this game, and also noticing how you think about the games you're losing. And so this morning, just to kind of get us primed up before I invite my guest on, like, what is your approach to your health? Like, what if you approach your health as a game? Would you be winning? Or would you be kind of like in the middle of the pack if it was a race, about to lose? Because sometimes you're like, well, I'm not losing, but you're not winning either, right? What if you approach your relationship game the same way? Like, would you be winning? What if you approach your work as a game? Like, would you be winning? And for my business owners, if you assess your business as a game, are you winning or are you losing? And then what about money? Do we even know the rules and the fundamentals of the money game? Like, do we really? And then they say that most games are 80% of your success in a game is your mentality, right? Like, you listen to old school interviews from Michael Jordan, or even recent interviews from the late Kobe Bryant. He's always like, they call it the Mamba mentality, right? But then we think about everything else, like even money. Like they say 80% is mentality, and then the other 20% is ability. And I'm beginning to believe that there is a reason why so many smart, talented people are losing their games in health, relationship, work, and money. Because, hey, a lot of us are smart. We're talented, but we're not winning these games. So what don't we know? One. Two, when we do gain the knowledge we need to be successful, are we moving forward with an execution mentality? How are you doing in the game of money? Well, this morning, my guest will be sharing fundamental tips. And I say, get your little notebooks, get everything that you need. And it's not just about taking notes and gaining the knowledge, but I really want you to think about your mentality in the areas that we cover throughout the rest of the show. For many of the successful women in Chicago that we look up to, they all got to walk into somebody's salon, just like y'all do, because they got to go play their game. Well, Spring's Place is that salon. Spring, tell me if I'm lying, but Spring's Place is that salon, okay? And that many of them go to, maybe not all of them, but a lot of really successful women. And it's more than just her stylist skills that has them remaining loyal. And in today's interview, you're about to learn why. You're about to learn why. Spring, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Linal. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, first, I want to give the audience a little bit of your background because when I say that you're a salon owner, I think often, we think stylists, we think beauty, we think cosmetology, things like that. But you have a bit of a different background than most salon owners or cosmetologists. And can you just share a little bit about your background with us?
So I've been doing hair over 30 years, and it's part of my legacy. My aunt moved, on the Great Migration north and found this was the lucrative business for her to be independent and find a way. So me and Denise saw her, took up the craft, but I took it up after I finished college. So you're right. I am doing hair with the undergrad in accounting.
So let me just pause there. So Spring Capers has been doing hair with an undergrad in accounting. Now, right away, I think most of the audience is probably like, oh, okay, that's different. Partly because we're talking money today. Can you just share with us how that has impacted you over the last 30 years doing business? So
the biggest impact, kind of like the rap song, what's your net worth?
Yeah.
That was my guide for 30 years because of my background. So just like every other hairstylist, I was out there, 30 years ago, you straight cash money. And so it's, out of your client's hand into your pocket. And you lived every day like that. But because of my background, I knew I needed to have something at the end of the year. I needed to have a net. I know what came in, I knew what went out, but I knew I had to have the difference to really build some wealth.
And that I think that's, and real quick for our listeners, because I know one of the conversations you and I have had is around accounting language and how many of us who understand it, we use it. But for instance, you just used the word net. I would say maybe 80% of my audience knew exactly what you were talking about. 20% of my audience didn't. And by the way, that has nothing to do with how much money they make. It just has something to do with the knowledge, right? So can you just break down for us what you meant by that net?
Yeah, so, and I described it to my stylist. One of my stylists told me one day, they was like, I got money in the bank. I said, okay. I said, how much do you owe people? And so he gave me the number. And then he told me how much money he had in the bank. Well, the money he had in the bank was less than the money he owed. So that's the difference. So that's what we're talking about. What's the difference?
Right.
And what you have. So that's what we call net.
Got you. The difference in what you have. And overall, would you say another way to talk about this is like what's left over?
What's left over?
After everything is accounted for, what's left over?
Exactly.
Got you. You have what you call a blueprint. Okay, so you just walk us through this blueprint of business, because you call it the blueprint of business fundamentals, correct?
Yeah, small business fundamentals, correct.
Can you take a moment just to walk us through this blueprint and why you believe this is the proper blueprint for a small business owner?
Sure. So I took the time to realize what was the backbone for me being successful. And first was my time. It's how I use my time, because that's how we make money. Yeah. Our time is money. Always. That's how we figure out what we charge and all that. So I knew that was part of it. Money management is like my DNA. I know the more I know about it, the more I can manage it. And when I talk about know about it, I'm talking about your day-to-day handling of money. Not your long-term down the future, but I'm talking about every day. How much money did you spend? How much products did you buy? How much you charging for that service? And are you feeling fulfilled with that money? And then what we just said, what's left over, that's where the money resides, you know. That's where you can grow your wealth, where you could buy your home, take your vacation, and not be in debt.
Gotcha.
And so 30 years of that has given me the ability, not just for myself, stylists, you could go throughout this city and find stylists that worked under me, and they're successful.
That's beautiful. So one of the things, and that's awesome. I think, well, does that pull in another fundamental part of the blueprint you have? Because when you say that to me, what I think automatically is leadership, and I believe that leadership is a part of that business fundamental blueprint that you have.
Yes, it is. It's the knowledge to, well, here's the thing where I tell people when they're in business, if they have just enough business for them, that's fine. But when you can grow your business and put something in somebody else's pocket, to your point, that's leadership and growth. Yes.
Got you. And legacy. I would say that's legacy when you can say that there are stylists all around the city that at one point worked for you and now know how to move and become independent and operate. That's a beautiful legacy. So one, thank you. An acknowledgement
Thank you.
on behalf of them to you. Because I know we don't always acknowledge the way we should, so I just do it for I do it for them. What are some of the habits that you've created that have allowed you to get to the point where you can be a thorough day-to-day money manager?
Ooh, you get me excited about this. So, and you know, most people, as much as we love money, managing money is not that sexy word, but it's the heart of whatever you do.
Uh-huh.
And so when I talk about the day-to-day, especially when you are self-employed and you're your own business person, your money is coming in daily. Mm-hmm. And modern day, we have all the tools, but you need to put your hands on it. You need to get pen and paper and write down. Even if you're working, you need to know those 2 paychecks you got coming in. Like, how much is it after your taxes? And then how are you going to spend it? Really, how are you going to spend that money? Of course, you got your bills, but did you account for all them Amazon purchases? Did you account for them Uber rides? And I just did it. I was just sharing this with my clients. For Lent, I decided to walk. I'm not far from my job, so I decided to walk to work because I did the math, and this was right before the gas went up. But I pulled out, and I asked them, I said, do you take your credit card statements, pull it out, categorize what you spent? I might put household, food, Amazon, all those Apple apps, all my travel. So I was adding up every time the parking app replenished those $20. And you look at it like, I put $20. Nope. At the end of the month, it was $300.
Wow. Just for parking.
Just for parking. That's not even gas.
Wow.
So all that is eating away at your dreams, at your wealth building, if you don't get a hold of it. Moderate income can make huge wealth if managed right.
So explain that to us, right? Moderate income can create huge wealth. Because I believe that many of us, like when we think about money, we're like, oh, the reason why I'm having financial issues is because I need to make more money.
Right.
That's the first place that most people go. I need to make more money. Or I remember back when I was in corporate America, I had a woman, you all won't believe this, I had a woman come to me who worked for me and tell me, Linal, I need to make more money. And by the way, she was a manager on my team. And I told her, I said, well, you make pretty good money. can you help me understand why you need to make more money? And she said, well, my family, we just purchased this Tahoe. And the way it's eating things up is creating financial stress. I work too hard to be in financial stress, and so can you give me a raise? And I just looked at her and said, no. This is not a how much you get paid problem. This is how you and your family manage your money problem. And you might want to go back and look at that and not ever come to a boss and tell them that again. But we just bought a Tahoe and now I need a raise. But this is, again, I started the show by saying smart and talented people, right? Because this was a smart and talented woman. But when she thought about money, it came from this place of, I need more if I'm running out. And what I just heard you say is daily money management. One of the things, too, Spring, this is when you know somebody for real, right? She said Apple apps, right? She broke down the parking she knew the number, $300. Like, hey, y'all, I hope y'all really listening this morning, like really, really listening this morning. Because folks, they swear that they about their money, mind on my money, money on my mind. But Spring, I don't know, you really showing us what it means to have your mind on your money and your money on your mind. So anything else you would share with us in terms of, I kind of want to stick on this idea of moderate income and wealth. So what would you say was your formula over 30 years of bringing in a moderate income to getting to a point where you're wealthy, like where you're at choice financially? And I believe to me, that's wealth.
Yes.
What would you say are some of the things you did?
Well, the first thing I did once I recognized that I had money left over, I got on that money right away to turn it into something that is worth something. So, in accounting, you say assets, right? But I say something that's worth something. Versus when I first was spending my money, I had my Gucci bags just like everybody else. But I had the knowledge to say, ooh, what's that worth? So I probably within 2 or 3 years of working, I bought my home. And so that secured me some wealth with property ownership. And I bought a nice piece of property. And every chance I got, I knew that if I made something that was worth something, a bill, those of us that pay our bills, I knew it would get paid automatically. It's that forced savings that you create in your life. So it forced me also to live within a certain window of money so that I could continue to do what I was doing, to be able to have my home, to have my business. So right there, I had taken my business, taken the money I had left over. And once I had to buy this piece of property, it was an interesting time, too. It was over 30 years ago. I had to make the down payment. And this was the key, Linal. The lady was very generous with me in terms of allowing me to get the money together. I had to put down about $25,000.
That's pretty substantial.
She gave me.
Yeah, that was pretty substantial 30 years ago.
30 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's pretty substantial.
I was about 30. And so she gave me 6 months. That changed my life because I had a goal. I know you know this because that's what you teach.
Yeah.
And so I had a goal that changed my young girl hanging out life. I had to get her this money every month. So my work became real purposeful. I was single and That's all I had to do. I didn't have a husband. I have no children. So every month I was about getting this money to this lady for this down payment. Right there, it changed the trajectory of how I handled my money.
Wow. Wow. And so would you say that you going after that asset helped you create more financial discipline, like in that 6-month period?
Absolutely. Like I tell people, and I tell people all the time with them, to your point, you had your the girl that worked with you, and they didn't know how to handle their money. I said, give it to me. Let me look at your stuff. Let me look at what you got going out, what you got coming in. Because this is my theory. Mm-hmm. If you have money coming in, you can figure out your situation. Can't help you if you ain't got nothing coming in. But if you
that's
have
tweetable. That's a tweetable moment. Hold on. Spring just told y'all, if you got money coming in, you can figure out your situation. Like, write that down, because we got to unpack that, Spring. But if you have money coming in, you can figure out. So what she's saying is, she didn't say how much. She didn't say if you got this much money coming in. She said if you got money coming in, we can figure out you can figure out your situation. Spring, like, break that down for me.
So, I got so many examples of people, but if you take the time, weekly, bi-weekly, and stay on top of your money, you can get control of the money, the things that you're spending your money on, right? Mm-hmm. And what I love, what I struggle with is how emotionally attached we are private about how we are managing money, especially around people that know, right?
Say that.
So, right? We're suffering.
Yes.
Because the information is there if we weren't so private.
Yep.
If somebody just say, show me how to do this, it's out there.
You know, my wife always says secrecy creates isolation, and a lot of us are financially isolated.
That is it right there. Financially isolated, because you're embarrassed about something nobody told you you had to know, but you can get help and find out. But saying that, once I even took a dear family member of mine, just working and sat with them every other week, got them out of debt, out of crazy debt, and no, it wasn't a hard process. It was just being diligent about it. And so the one thing I always ask people, what is the dream? What do you want to do the most? What do you want to have the most? Freely with your money, because you don't want to go on vacation in June, and because of your money, the way your money is, you're still on vacation in November because you're still paying on that June vacation.
Right, you're still paying for them beach drinks.
Yeah, you're still paying for that pool bar.
Right, and we're chuckling about it, but this is the reality for most people.
And it doesn't have to be. It isn't.
It doesn't.
To your point, it isn't because you don't have more money. It's what you did with the money you had. Over time, you continue to do this. You continue to live in this way. Let me compare it to like food or like a diet.
Okay.
You know that how you eat builds you strength, your body. So if you stay in that regimen, you will continue to have that healthy, wealthy body, right? Let's call your body wealth.
Right.
Well, the moment you go off the way you eating healthy, your your body is going to depreciate, right?
Ooh,
You're
that's
not going to
good.
be as healthy.
That's a good
Yeah.
way of looking at that. Yeah.
Exactly. Same way with your money. You have to stay in this regiment, and it's just living in probably like 80% of doing what you're supposed to, 20% of fun, right? Or as you build your fund, it could be gigantic if you built it like that. But when you manage that day-to-day living, and you can, here's the thing too, Linal. Account for all the money you spent. Do you know every dime, every dollar you spent? And if you don't know that, I know how your money is set up. If you can't tell me that, I know how your money is set up.
Spring, some people can't even tell you how much money they got.
How about that?
Let alone how much money they spent. And so,
right.
Like and I think a lot of us allow money to confuse us. Like, well, I got this over here, that. Oh, it's like, it doesn't matter. Most of us have multiple accounts. I'm sure you have multiple accounts. It's how present are you to your finances. I love this. I love this. Do you know how much money you are spending? Okay, so Spring, I want to ask you a quick question right quick. You said that part of the way that you really built your wealth was purchasing assets and living within a certain window. Is there anything else that you would say you would add to that list?
Yes. So one of the things I do want to say, and I give credit for investment and knowing the financial market and doing a higher level of money management. I focus on your everyday life because I see so many people that make so much money and not having the life they really could have. So when I look back over everything I've done and what I know that has worked for me, without trying to, make it big, like I always call it, I tell people it's the simple, fundamental things that you do every day that will make a difference in your life. You can build a wealth and a wonderful lifestyle and peace at the end of the day with the basic fundamentals and taking care of yourself. Like you talk about taking care of your time, taking care of your money, and being a leader in your whole life.
And what I'm really getting from this the most, even when you talk about your financial, like your blueprint for financial fundamentals, I can really understand why you put leadership in it, because before I can lead anybody else in any category, I have to lead myself, and I believe that one of the reasons why you're a leader in this category and now coaching small business owners. And supporting them this way is because you've practiced it. I mean, you've led yourself, and the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in what you built. Credit is one of those areas that we all, either one, we really got it figured out, or we may struggle a bit. And Satin, we can hear you now. So, by the way, you're all set.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And so I know for me, years ago, even when I was making really good money, I would be really, in some ways, kind of, what might be the right word, like afraid of credit? Because growing up, I just heard, like, man, you don't want your credit to get jacked up. You don't want anything to happen. And if you don't pay, you get hit with all these percentages and APRs, et cetera. So for a long time, I stayed away from credit, and I really didn't understand the value of credit, how credit could be leveraged, and also how having credit helps you build credit and obtain more. And so can you maybe just kind of give us a rundown of the work that you do, and maybe even some examples of how you supported people in different places as a credit expert?
So I have been in the finance and credit industry now for about 17 years. So we help people to qualify for loans, and we also assist people in getting loans. So we understand the bureaus, we understand the lenders, and we understand how FICO, the makers of the FICO score, operate and kind of what they're looking for, so that we can help restructure people's credit profiles so that they meet the standards of good credit according to FICO. What you just said about being afraid of credit is very, very common, and it's actually by design. So the way that the school system was structured is that it left out anything with regards to finance. So a lot of the times when my clients get to me and we have conversations about credit, a lot of the information is new because it was purposeful to leave finance out of any type of public education, to leave finance out of any type of college education. It's not a requirement whatsoever. And then also, it wasn't until 2003 that you could even get your credit score. Prior to that, people would just say, I think I have good credit because I get loans that I apply for, or I think I have bad credit because I get denied. But it just wasn't something that was readily available and accessible. But today, it's very available for people to see their credit reports. There's a lot of free resources right now, as well as get their FICO scores.
So, wow, thank you for that. Let's just start with the basics, right? Let's say, because I don't even want to assume that somebody just put on Facebook, oh, wow, it was intentional. It's like, yeah, you got to wonder why you ain't taught to balance your checkbook and understand your credit in school. There's a reason for that. But let's just start with the basics here. Let's say I'm someone and I just want to look at my credit report. What are some things that I would do or I could do to take that on?
Well, it's a couple things. There is a free website that is called annualcreditreport.com, and it's in the law by the government that you get a free bureau credit report every year. But during COVID, you actually get a free credit report every 7 days. And you can get this for all three bureaus
you
at
said
that
every
website.
7 days?
Annual credit. Every 7 days, you can get a free credit report from annualcreditreport.com. Another way that people get their credit reports is typically through Credit Karma. That is also a free website. My issue with Credit Karma is two things. One, it does not give you your Experian report or FICO score. Another thing is sometimes the information is delayed or missing or inaccurate. And then the third thing is with Credit Karma, just so that people know, because a lot of people use Credit Karma. Credit Karma gives you Vantage scores and not FICO scores, so it's not your real score. It's about 50, well, it could be 1 to 50 points off either direction. But if you're looking to get your credit report, you would go to annualcreditreport.com, or you could go directly to each bureau to get your free credit report.
Wow, I just learned something here. One, I didn't know that I could check my credit every 7 days. I can be a little OCD like that. I don't know if that was good for me or bad for me, Satin. The other thing I didn't know was that Credit Karma could be off by 1 to 50 points on your credit. So I could think I'm tier 1, walk into a car dealership, and get a higher interest rate if I'm not careful, if I'm only watching Credit Karma. That's what I just heard.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Credit Karma gives you Vantage scores, which is not typically used by the lenders. Typically about 85% of the lenders or better use FICO score Fair Isaac Corporation. If you wanted to get your auto industry score, for example, there is a specific score for that, in the same way there's a specific score for mortgage scores. And the only place online that you can actually get all of your FICO scores is directly from FICO themselves, and their website is myfico.com.
Got you. And is that the auto score? The FICO score is the auto score? Is that one and the same?
So,
okay.
Right. So FICO, there's several FICO scores. There's auto industry FICO scores.
Okay.
There's mortgage industry FICO scores. There's bank card FICO scores, and then there's general FICO scores.
Wow.
And so if you're going to go buy a car, then you would look at your auto industry FICO score. If you were going to get a mortgage, you would look at your mortgage industry FICO score, because it's designed specifically by industry. If you're trying to get a business loan, then you would look at your bank card FICO score. And the only place that you can get all of those scores is from myfico.com, the actual makers of the FICO score.
Well, let's break down. So to that point, let's break down these tiers then, right? Because I said tier one. Like, what is some of the language that, and by the way, I learned tier one from, owning a car rental business and walking into car dealerships and buying cars so much that they're like, oh, you're a tier one customer, good to have you back. I'm like, what's tier one? They're like, you have excellent credit. Can you break down for us how we're looked at as consumers through our credit scores?
So a paper, for example, would be anyone who is a 760 to 850. So the FICO score goes from 300 to 850. Anything at 760 or higher is considered the same interest rate. There's a lot of people I know who want to get, 800 or 850 credit scores, but after 760, it doesn't matter that much.
Oh, okay.
It's the same interest rate for all of them. So that's A paper. And then like B paper, it used to be 720 to 760, but now it's more like 700 to 760. That's where you're going to get qualified for a loan, but you might pay just a little bit of a higher interest rate on that. Below that would be C paper. C paper would be like fair credit, and you may or may not qualify at that level. And poor credit would be a 620 or lower. So that would be a poor credit rating, and there you would get denied, or you would pay very high interest rates.
Yeah. Years ago, I was dating someone, and they wanted to get a car. And you know how, you really don't talk finances or anything like that. So I didn't know their credit situation. But when the dealership came back with an 18%, like, she just looked less attractive. I was like, 18%? Like, wow. Because right away what I thought is, like, you have poor credit. And I'm guessing in this case, she might have been, C paper. And they were like, look, we'll give you this loan, but we want to make sure that we're making as much money as possible.
So she was lower than C paper. If she had
really?
18%.
At 18%? So, okay.
She had a poor credit rating. She was 620 or lower at 18%.
Okay, got you. And so they were like, look, we'll give you the car, but we're going to give it to you at 18% so we can make sure that in the first couple of years we make our money. Otherwise, she was high risk. And
very high risk. Exactly.
Yeah. Somebody said I'm wrong for
that.
You're wrong for that on Facebook. I'm like, hey, actually Spring said it, and Spring already know that if she had a companion or a boyfriend, the way you think about money, Spring, you already know. You've been like, okay, need to reevaluate. So how does one, okay, I have poor credit, right? I walked into a dealership and I was given an 18% rate. Maybe I don't take it because I say, okay, what I want to do is repair my credit. What are the steps that a person would take?
Well, before you walk into any lender, you should already know what your credit score is, right?
Right.
So, as mentioned before, you could go to MyFICO and you already be ahead of the game because you know exactly what the lenders are looking at and what they're making their determination on. Secondly, you can get credit repair. They say that you can do credit repair yourself, and in some instances you can, but the bureaus do make it incredibly difficult for you to do credit repair yourself, because of course you don't study consumer protection laws. So I would advise hiring a credit repair company to help you do your credit repair. What I will tell you in terms of credit repair, what can help out with a lot of people, The good news is medical debt. Often there's a lot of medical debt on people's credit report. As a matter of fact, bankruptcy was created because of medical debt to help people out of medical debt. But the good news with that is that right now, if medical debt is paid, whether to the original creditor or to the third-party debt collector, now it is no longer allowed to remain on the credit report. And so the bureaus have to remove it under HIPAA laws. 2, they just announced that they are no longer going to report medical debt on the credit report anymore because it is, by definition, not really an extension of credit. That's some good news with regards to credit repair. In working with a credit repair company, basically what you're looking to do is you're looking to remove any negative items that have a negative impact on your credit report. The items that you would want to remove would be any type of late pays. And a late pay stays on your credit for about 7 years. So you're going to go all the way back to 7 years. You're going to remove all of those. You're going to remove any type of collections. Collections is when you had a contract with an original creditor and that went to default and they sold it to a third-party debt collector. That is a collection, which is differentiated from a charge-off when you have a contract with an original creditor and then you default on that, and then that goes into charge-off status. Typically, it's 90 to 150 days late, and they have written it off on their profit and loss statement. So those are things that you want to remove. Things that do not report on your credit report anymore that people think report on their credit report is tax liens. Since 2015, tax liens are no longer allowed to report on the credit report. But the public records that do report on there are bankruptcies. So you definitely want to get your bankruptcy removed. And you also want to get accounts included in bankruptcy removed as well. When you're speaking with your credit repair specialist and they're working on a post-bankruptcy credit report, one of the things that you want to make sure that they notice is that if you have an account that is included in bankruptcy, post-bankruptcy, according to bankruptcy code, it should report as neutral. So the bankruptcy codes are designed to make your credit score, credit report neutral after you have you discharged your bankruptcy. So 60 days post-bankruptcy, all bankruptcy accounts should have no negative payment history, no negative status, no negative comments. It basically should report open date, close date, and include it in bankruptcy. A lot of the times, the bureaus are guilty of, or creditors are guilty of continuing to report negative payment histories or negative standing post-bankruptcy, and that's not supposed to be on there. So that's the credit repair part, right? So you just want to get rid of that.
Wow.
But the second part
So hold on.
is...
Just let's pause for a second. That was a lot. And what I heard, like when you said, hey, you probably want to work with a credit repair expert, I'm sure the audience was thinking, well, of course, that's what every credit repair expert would say. Then when you just dropped the knowledge, I was like, yeah, you might want to work with a credit repair expert. Even the knowledge that you share with us on when some of these things, like I didn't know that medical bills were no longer allowed to be on a credit report. And I know that many people are probably...
If they're paid.
What was that?
If they're paid, yeah.
If they're paid, okay. Yeah, so... like, once I pay it, it should be removed. And so all these different things, like, real quick, because you are in the credit repair industry, correct? You have openings for clients or – because I'm sure people are thinking, like, what's that?
We do have openings for
You
clients.
do have openings? So how would a person reach out to you? Because I already know what you, like – what you just dropped is information that I thought I was up to date on credit. And then I was just like, wow, okay, there's a whole lot that I don't even know, which is, I mean, this is why we have experts at, and I'm happy I know you. How would a person reach out to you and connect with you if they're looking to get some level of credit repair?
They could go to my website, and that is www.mydingcredit.com. And there's a contact us form on there. And they will also, if they do the contact form, they will also get a free ebook on insider credit secrets.
And is a lot of the things you just shared with us on in that book?
Yes.
And what's the website again?
It's www.myjanecredit, and Jane is spelled Jain.
Jain, myjanecredit.com.
The formula for repaying your credit is to get rid of the bad and add the good. So to get rid of the bad is not enough, right? So if I go to a credit repair expert and I remove all the negative items from my credit report, that does not mean that I have good credit, because the absence of bad credit is not equivalent to the presence of good credit, and it takes good credit to have a good credit score. So the second phase is score building, where you add positive trade lines to your credit profile, and you can do that two ways. One, you can add authorized users. So if you have a friend or family member who has an existing credit card that has a minimum of 3 years of history, then they can add you to that credit card. Everyone except for American Express, they don't report history anymore. But the history in and of itself will help to build up the score, because length of history is 15% of the score. People have heard of this method, piggybacking method, but they've heard myths about it as well, that it doesn't work. It does, in fact, work score-wise. What it doesn't work for is it's in underwriting, it's not counted as one of your accounts. So that's where it doesn't work. But in terms of score, it does absolutely still work. And then the second thing that you can do in terms of score building is, once your scores are high enough, you want to get credit cards. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to get credit cards. I don't want to get debt. Credit cards are bad. I had credit cards before and it ruined my credit. But that's not actually true. Credit cards are the secret to having good credit, because they're actually worth the most points. But the specific type of credit card that is worth the most points is credit cards with primary lenders and high credit limits. And the only way that you can qualify for those is if you have B paper, to A paper.
So, I don't think my wife would mind me saying this, because I think she's a great example of someone who didn't have bad credit when we met, but she also didn't necessarily have good credit. And we built that fairly quickly for her by doing exactly what you said, like getting credit card loans, things like that. And then basically having her use those cards, and really quickly built her credit. So if anyone's listening and you're kind of like, man, I'm that person, like I've been avoiding credit cards, then what I hear you saying, Satin, is that it may be time for you to go ahead, apply for those credit cards, get what you can, begin using them to more powerfully build your credit and your credit score.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I am specifically saying primary lender credit cards, because there's the such thing as subprime credit cards.
Yep.
Those build the credit quite slowly, and typically they lower your credit score by virtue of the fact that they're subprime. A subprime card would be a store card. Subprime card would be a secured card. Subprime card would be any card that gives you less than $1,000 credit limit.
So you mean my Macy's card is hurting me?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless it has a high credit limit. If you have a high credit limit on it, which Macy's sometimes will give, yes.
So the other thing that I hear you saying here is that a low credit limit on a card, even if it's a major bank, like sometimes it's worth like moving to another card. Now, what about closing that account? Because doesn't closing that account sometimes hurt your credit? Oh,
definitely. Yeah, you never want to close your accounts. So with installment accounts, when you close them, it typically will drop your score 10 to 15 points. And if you close a revolving account, which is credit cards or lines of credit, then it typically will lower your score 20 to 40 points.
Got you.
So it's not a good idea to close accounts. I hear people say all the time, okay, I'm gonna pay off my car, and that should give me some more points. It will get you no points. As a matter of fact, it will probably drop your score 15 points, because what drives the credit score is the payment history and management of your debt, not paying something off. The banks don't benefit necessarily when you pay things off as you think they do. And just remember that credit is a banker system. So it's a pay-to-play system. They want you to have payment history to actually build the credit score.
Now, to that point, Satin, what if I say, you know what, I don't want to keep a balance, though. Is it okay for me to use my credit card and then pay the entire balance every month?
No, it's not.
Really?
If you have, yes. So there's the 10% utilization rule. And basically what that is that you want to have a 10% utilization on your revolving accounts. This only applies to revolving accounts, so lines of credit and credit cards. 10% builds the score. Anything higher than 10% lowers the score. Anything lower than 5% lowers the score, about 15 to 20 points.
Wow.
So if you have all of your credit cards at 0% utilization, then your score will be 15 to 20 points lower than it could be. So what some of my clients will do is they'll keep all of their credit cards zero except for one, and they'll just maintain a small balance on that one.
Okay, and when you say small balance on that one, is that like when you say 10% utilization, if my credit limit on that card is $40,000, then am I like, just keeping it around 4,000?
Well, what I mean by that is your overall utilization has to be
overall utilization. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So overall utilization. So overall my cards at any given time, how much is revolving debt?
What do you mean?
Like revolving debt, like, so let's say I have around all my cards $100,000 of credit. What I hear I just want to make sure I understand this. What I hear you saying is that across all those cards,
your overall utilization should be $10,000.
My overall utilization should be $10,000. Got you. Okay.
Right, $5,000 to $10,000. So you're at 5 to 10%. So you have a $100,000 credit limit.
Now, if every month I'm spending $10,000 and I pay it off, will that hurt me? If the next month is going to be $10,000 again?
No, it doesn't hurt you. Lenders like to see that. They like to see that you're not living off of your credit. But in terms of your score, if you're at 0%, it'll 100% lower your score.
Gotcha.
So this is what I tell my clients. If you're score building, right, or if you're about to get a loan and you want your score to be the optimum it can be, follow that 10% utilization rule. If you're not using your credit, by all means, keep it at 0%. You're just going to see your scores drop, that 15 to 20 points.
Wow. This has been incredibly helpful. I'll tell you, because looking at one of the things that my wife and I do, we pay off, we'll spend on the credit cards, but we pay them off every month. And when I look at my credit, utilization, I've been proud of the fact that it comes in at 2 to 3%. And what I'm hearing from you is like, well, Linal, if you really want to,
it could be higher.
It could be higher. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like it could be higher. It's not. I mean, I'm tier 1, I'm good credit, over 800, so I could actually kiss 850.
Mm-hmm.
I
had a client call me a couple of weeks ago. He had an 850 credit score, and he was like, my score dropped 20 points. I'm at 830. What happened? And I was like, did you pay all your credit cards off? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's what happened.
Wow. And it does. And what I heard from you is it doesn't really matter much. You're still tier 1. You're still, you call it a paper, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if I'm looking for a home loan or something like that, it could impact me a little bit.
Well, yeah. So, my advice is if you're getting a loan is to know what the score requirements are for that particular loan. So if you're getting a mortgage, for example, typically the score requirement is a 640 minimum score. Your mid score should be a 640. Okay. And so if you're at 0% utilization on your credit cards, you definitely want to use that 10% rule to get a few more points. I mean, listen, if you're at a 620 and you put a balance on your credit card and you get 15 to 20 more points, then you could qualify for your loan.
So you know what? I'm already certain we're going to have you back on the show. We're going to give people enough notice. We're going to make a show of this, man. And if you're willing, If you're willing, because it's such great information. I mean, it's phenomenal information. I think it's information that the normal person just doesn't have. And I've learned a lot from you over the course of the last 30 minutes or so. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're so very welcome. And yeah, I would absolutely love to come on the show. And, just in closing, if anyone is thinking that they can do credit repair themselves, because it's really encouraged by the bureaus that people do credit repair themselves. But like I said, the bureaus make it very complicated. I would say you could do credit repair yourself. You absolutely could. But you could also represent yourself in a court of law.
Sean is here to support business owners in what many business owners struggle with, and that is developing a line of credit. So sometimes they can do things like make payroll or make purchases or make investments for their business that will create more money. And I know a lot of times when you look at our community, what we're missing is capital. And Vashawn is here to share with us how we can gain some level of capital. Vashawn, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fabulous. It's been a great morning to hear Spring and Spaten. Great segue into the program that we operate at BMO Harris Bank. So happy to be here this morning.
So, Vashawn, tell us about what you do at BMO and why this is so important for the listeners.
I head up the BMO for Black, Latinx, and Women in Business program, which is a program that was developed about a year and a half ago. We're in a second year of it, and it really was designed to address the access to capital gap or the economic gap within the Black, Latinx, and Women in Business community. I've been in banking now for over 25 years, probably closer to 30, mainly working with business owners from different aspects. And so when this program was developed, it was just really, really a great opportunity to do not only purpose work, but to take my talent and be able to share this within the community.
And, man, am I excited that you're doing it. So give us some examples of small business owners or people who may want to take advantage of this. And I know from the time I learned about it, Vashawn, I'm like, you know what? I need to do this. I'm not even, my credit is good, been blessed in that aspect. But just the credit line and having that opportunity and that opening to work with someone like you, I think is incredibly empowering. And so what type of businesses or people should consider this particular program?
Well, the program is a three-pronged program: access to capital, access to education, and access to partnerships that we've developed within the community to help with educational and coaching opportunities. So the access to education piece, again, Satin and Spring hit on so many of the things that we hit on when we're providing coaching opportunities for small businesses in terms of credit and the financial situation. So getting that access to education really, really, I would say, is one of the most important part of the three-pillar program. But the access to capital, what we've been able to do is to provide a business line of credit up to $50,000 for businesses that have existed for more than 2 years. And for startup businesses, we have a up to $50,000 business credit card. And so we've been able to really take a look at startup businesses as well as existing businesses to offer this program where we have relaxed some of the underwriting criteria in order to get this access to capital out into the market. So thus far, go ahead.
So real quick about this. So you said you all have what? Some of the underwriting? Because I want to really dig into that.
Yeah. So we've expanded. So what we mean by expanded, we took a look at, we don't credit score per se. We take a look at credit behavior. Unlike on the retail side, on the consumer side, where it's very score-driven, on the business side, it's behavior-driven. Now, while the score is important, but the behavior is most important for assessing risk when we make decisions. So we relax that on our underwriting standards, as well as we take a look at the ability to repay the debt. So we relax our debt service coverage just specifically for this program. So this has allowed us to approve more lending opportunities for Black, Latinx, and women in business.
Wow. So is there an example you can provide to really help small business owners who are already thinking like, okay, I believe this just might work for me. I've been needing access to capital. I've been needing some level of a credit line. Give us an example of how this has worked for past clients or customers.
Yeah. As the previous guests have mentioned, being prepared is the most important thing before you come to the bank. Know your credit score, know your business financial situation, so that when you do meet with our bankers, because actually this program is listed through our local branches, where they're able to sit and talk through, where you're at and then move forward with the application process, which is really simple because you can get a decision right away through our automated system, which we launched as well. And so knowing your credit situation, there are businesses that have established business credit, understanding what is being reported on that, and understanding how you should probably, as Fatin talked about, clear up some of those issues, those behaviors off your credit bureau, because they will have an impact on the decision process. So we'll take a look at business and personal credit, and we'll also take a look at your financial statements, preferably your most recent business tax returns.
Got you. So say I can provide those things, but my credit score, my personal credit score is not that great. And even in my business, I had a tough time maybe 2 years ago. Pay some things late. I end up paying them, but, the impact on my credit score is there. Would I qualify for this? Should I even reach out to you?
It just depends. Again, we look at credit behavior and the overall impact, and how long ago were some of these incidents and what has occurred since then. And so it is, I can't give 100% guarantee. All I know is that we've approved over 900 businesses for this particular program, putting roughly about $26.9 million in available credit out in the marketplace. So the program is working, but we also say if it's a no, not yet. And let's take a look at how you can get to the yes, along with working with our partners that provide access to capital where their underwriting standards might be a little bit more lenient than BMO Harris Bank under the program. And so there's still a segment of business owners there that we could not help right now, but they've agreed to go through some type of coaching, be it a credit repair or getting an accountant to take a look at their financial statements. If you're, as Spring says, what is your net? If your net is a negative, then it does not demonstrate the ability to repay any new debt because you're operating at a negative net. And so understanding all these things before you apply is real important.
What I love most about the program that you all provide is I heard coaching and support. And I think often when we think about banks, we don't think coaching and support at all. And again, just when we think about finances and money, I mean, this is one of the things that, again, makes us all get a little wonky. Spring and I talked about financial isolation. And what I'm hearing from you, Vashawn, is that this is an opportunity for business owners, no matter where they are in their journey, to go in, not be judged, but to be coached and supported so they can get where they intend to go.
Absolutely. On our program website, we actually provide free templates and calculators out there. So even before you come in, you can take a look at our website and take a look at, if you don't have a business plan, we have a template out there. We have a tax time checklist, how to improve your profit with a calculator. And then, most importantly, demystifying the lending process. There's a guide out there for you to review, and then there's a growing your business checklist. So we offer all these free tools, whether you apply for the access to credit or not. Again, the access to education is just as important as the access to capital.
Man, I believe that so much. I mean, and this show today has been all about education, and the comments that I'm looking at on Facebook have been affirming that. And I'm sure the listeners out in Radio Land are nodding their heads right now and happy that they're receiving this information. How might people learn more about this BMO program, contact you or someone on your team, et cetera?
Great question. You can contact me at 312-402-2722. That's 312-402-2722. Or you can make an appointment. I always say make an appointment with our branches, because they're, at any point in time, it could be a way to meet with a personal banker or relationship manager in our branches. But all our branches have been trained to have these conversations with business customers, and then deciding what is the next step.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Fashawn. Did you give a website that they can go to?
You can go to the BMOHarris.com website and connect to our business banking page and look for the BMO for Black and Latinx page. And it has more information as it relates to the access to capital and all those free tools and calculators. And we also have a program called Coach in Your Corner, and you can sign up to meet with the banker one-on-one. So take a look at that website page, sign up to meet with a coach, one of the bankers here at BMO Harris Bank, and we're happy to go over the program, we're happy to go over the parameters, and we're happy to guide any business owners with assistance where, maybe, you need to have a good conversation with your accountant. We'll be able to tell you, this could be an accounting issue, and then refer you over to one of our organizational partners that provide cohort type of programs that may be 6 or 12 weeks. But the educational piece is so important to the success of our small business owners.
Well, Fashawn, thank you so much for your time this morning, for sharing with us this phenomenal information. And here's the one thing that I believe I learned throughout this segment, and Fashawn, you really kind of brought it home here towards the end, is that we're, in many ways, it's a new day. And organizations, in this case BMO, they're looking, I think a lot of times we looked at ourselves as, I'm the business owner, and the bank is the bank, and, it's kind of like this contentious relationship, even with fees, et cetera, things like that. And when I hear coaching and support come from someone who represents a bank, that I think in many ways hopefully has shifted not just my perspective, but the perspective of the audience in terms of how we think about, in this case, BMO as a partner, and looking to partner with other financial organizations so we can really get to where we intend to go in our businesses and in our finances overall. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Linal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, my inspired peoples. Linal Harris here, certified ontological coach and trainer. I'm so excited that you're watching the channel. By the way, did you know you can catch the show live at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? You can. All you have to do is go to my Facebook stream, Coach Linal Harris, catch the stream live, or you can listen to the radio show via iHeart at WVON 1690 AM. But since you're here, if you love the content, I ask that you share it, like this particular video, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a great day.